This episode of the No Vacancy Podcast is dedicated to the memory of Jay Schultz, who is SVP Hospitality Group with Hotel Business and Inspire Design magazines. Jay was a mentor type of figure to me. When I first came into the hotel industry, I started a hotel business, and he was a number of years ahead of me, and he really showed me the ropes. And over the years was generous and kind and giving and just a wonderful human being that had nothing but goodness in him and his desire to see me to succeed, even when I was competing against him. He's a true mensch. He's going to be missed. Really thought that guy was amazing. Thanks for being with us, Jay.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy Podcast. It is the beginning of August. As far as I'm concerned, summer's over. I'm already panicked about fall travel season. Oh, a little too much. I'm loving it, though. My pool's in full effect. I've been home a little bit. August, though, I'm going to be traveling an awful lot. As you guys are hearing this, I would have just returned from Atlantic City. I can't wait to bring you a great report on how that city is hoping to change with all the excitement going on with the brand new Hard Rock, the reinvention of Revel as Ocean Resort, and a whole lot of good stuff. I'll be bringing a great interview next week with you for my good folks, my good friends over at the Showboat over there. It's being managed by Chesapeake Hospitality. Love those guys. You can hear all about them. If you're not a subscriber to our show, what are you thinking? Text the word hotel to 66866 to get our weekly newsletter. And of course, find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever these things are found. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this show is brought to you in part by Duetto, the revenue strategy technology platform thousands of hotels are using to make more money. I know you guys love money. I love money. You love money. Let's make more of it together. Check out getrevenueresults.com and be sure to watch this awesome video on how hotel management teams are collaborating and making more money. In it, you're going to follow this committed team of hoteliers, but you know what? They're lost in a world of spreadsheets, disconnected strategies, poor communication from a lack of the right technology. But when they commit to a revenue optimization strategy, everything changes. You'll see how, you'll see why you need to get on board with the good folks of Duetto. And of course, thanks to Red Roof for being a great sponsor here too. And before I bring in our guest today, I just want to say, if you haven't heard it yet, finally, it's enough to make me believe the forces are finally for me. We have our first series of episodes up of Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. Of course, that's me, Glenn Hausman, and Anthony Melchiori, straight from the Travel Channel, Hotel Impossible, 5-Star Secrets. He's got other shows coming up as well. Absolutely excited to be doing a show with him twice a week. That's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. Again, you can find it wherever you find podcasts. And now, to bring in the one, the only, the famous, the infamous Mr. Bruce Ford. How are you, sir?
Glenn, did you take a breath there? I mean, I might need to fill in for a few minutes.
That was 2 minutes and 16 seconds of pure adrenaline. I don't know what happened, but I'm feeling a little lightheaded, Bruce.
Okay, well, I'll fill in for you. It is, in fact, about to start the fall travel season, even though we say August. I'm headed off for vacation for a little personal time.
Nice.
But we have passed the mid-year post on the hotel business, so as tradition, Glenn, we have to get together and talk about what happened around that mid-year post and how things are going out there in the industry these days.
Yeah, I agree, Bruce. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the important stuff. Where are you going on vacation, and why'd you choose that place?
Well, Glenn, I'm actually doing a driving tour this summer.
Really?
I'm excited to report that, I was able to get a new van for the family last year, so I'm going to go test it out. And we're going to drive to Canton, Ohio, and go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Then we're going to drive down into Kentucky and go to Suburban Distilleries.
Nice.
And then, in honor of my my late high school history teacher, who absolutely loved Gettysburg, I'm going to go to those battlefields for the first time.
Wow, what an interesting trip. Any tips on how to still like your family after being in the car for all those hours?
Well, it's actually going to be just myself and Mrs. Ford.
What?
So just the two of us, and should be quite fun. I'm staying in 6 different hotel brands while I'm gone, Glenn. I will try out my first True by Hilton. on this road trip. I will try a Courtyard, a Staybridge, a Hilton Garden Inn, Marriott Resort, all kinds of different ones.
I love that you do that. And while all of us have a tendency to want to stick with one brand in order to get those points, I think it's so essential to go out there and see what everyone has to offer and the differences they have. I think it just makes you a smarter, more intelligent hospitality professional when you stay at all of these things. Is there one of these that you're looking forward to seeing most? I mean, to me, it would be True because it's a brand new concept that you haven't had a chance to kick the tires on.
Yeah, we have a new construction one that's opened up here in New England in world-famous Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is kind of the convergence of the Mass Pike and the I-495, or I-290, I should say. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking forward to checking that out, although it will be a late arrival and an early departure. Just enough time to kind of see it. Yes, I'm going to a concert that night.
Oh, and then, who are you seeing?
What? The Beach Boys, Glenn.
Oh, that's fun. I saw the.
I got to get my good. Get my good vibrations.
I saw them in 1995, and they were old then. I mean, that's going to be incredible. That's going to be incredible to see.
Well, sometimes things get ahead of. It's just a nostalgia thing. What the heck?
No, I think it's great, and of course, I'm going to be heading to Denver for Labor Day to go see Dick's Sporting Good arena shows for the band Fish. I'm really looking forward to seeing those particular types of shows and having a chance to hang out in Denver for a few days. But see, where else am I going this month? I'm going to San Diego. I'm going to Miami, and going to Atlantic City, like I said at the top of the show. But most importantly, I'm going to be here for a whole week. My family is going to be taking a vacation without me. Probably a smart move. So I'll be here alone at the Hausman Pool Club Resort and Smokehouse, all on my own.
Yes, so I'm sure that you're working a menu of loveliness and scheduling several events.
I think that sounds about right there, Bruce. Absolutely.
I know, because it's exactly the opposite of what I just said.
Yeah.
You'll be going out for sushi every night, and no one's coming over.
Well, there might be a steak or two on the grill. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm definitely going to focus on some good solitude. I might even go see that new Mission Impossible movie. We'll see. Time will tell.
Had a nice opening on the weekend, I guess. It was I hear it this morning, the largest Mission Impossible opening in the U.S. ever.
I think also the largest Tom Cruise opening ever, $61 million here in the United States. Pretty good take for that movie. People are saying it's really awesome and great stunts, which I really like that movie for. I can't believe that guy is 55. Man, we're all getting old.
Is that a Mission Impossible movie one where you'll stop on the dial and watch it for a few minutes, no matter when it is?
Yes, assuming I ever turn on my TV, which I rarely do.
Okay.
But agreed. I understand that the next Mission Impossible will just take place at a senior living center, so that'll be great. Mission Impossible: will Tom Cruise be able to get to the buffet?
That could happen. I mean, there was a day when Sean Connery retired from being James Bond. So I'm sure that could happen at some point. But now, was this ultimate release delayed because Tom Cruise got hurt during filming?
That is correct.
I never really added that up. I assume it was never planned for a late July release. It was probably a couple months earlier, I'm gathering, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. But honestly, I'm most excited about another film that's been delayed, and that'll be the next Indiana Jones film. Speaking about action heroes who are getting a little older, I think that guy's going to be getting close to 150 by the time that movie comes out. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see Harrison Ford in that role again. Love myself some Indiana Jones. I think Raiders of the Lost Ark, other than Star Wars, also with Harrison Ford in it, was one of the most impactful motion pictures I had in my childhood. Or maybe that was Porky's. Either way, I don't know.
It was definitely quirky. I enjoyed the stories, and I've even enjoyed the ones later on in the series as well. But I did watch The Last Jedi again this weekend, Glenn.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. I have it on my queue. I haven't had a chance to watch it. All right. So before we completely stumble into 2 hours of movie talk, let's talk about where we're at mid-year hospitality industry. Bruce, you know everything that's going on, but I'm going to set the stage by saying, in one word, I think people are going to say awesome. How do you see it?
Well, we see that the operating performance, anybody who's talked about it yet has said it's as good as expected, even if a little bit more robust in some places. So that's good news. I think that the travel expectation for the summer is still very good, although gas prices rose a little bit. It wasn't really too much, probably, to impinge travel. I think that go to any airport these days, you're overwhelmed with the amount of people there. So it seems that air travel is doing well. But I wonder what the impact is having on the heat waves that we're having. I mean, it's so hot. I mean, it's talking about weather changing and the variable of the weather changes. I wonder if that's impacting people on where they want to go.
That's a great question, and of course, we have no actual evidence on that as of the recording of this show. But anecdotally, I would say, yeah. Why wouldn't it? Right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for, you're thinking about variables, right? I mean, Texas has been extreme in terms of the heat. California's on fire again. New England has been very dry. We just had some rain last weekend. But, I mean, would you be like, wow, why take a risk? Let's just go to a Caribbean island or something like that.
Yeah, it's very possible. And it's actually, we're on target for the fourth hottest year in recorded history. So that's only the last 100+ years or so. But I'll tell you, Bruce, on that note, when I was in Europe a couple of weeks ago, I was in London, I was in Paris, and it was super crazy hot, and they are not used to having a string of super hot days with it. So a lot of places have no air conditioning. So it's an interesting thing when you think about if you want to go overseas to travel, you now need to consider things like that because you're outside, you're sweating, and then you get back to your room, it's going to be horrific. I had one day in London where even with the windows open, I had fans in my face. I was still suffering greatly.
Yeah, that's, I'm not sure the less than global traveler like you and I would even realize that in many cases. But that is, in fact, true. You get out to a lot of hotels, particularly those older than, say, 15 or 20 years, and there really is no air conditioning. And it certainly doesn't function like it does in America. So, I wonder what the impact will be. I'm not sure it will be measurable or if you'll even be able to find a statistic to hang your hat on. I just thought it was interesting because at the end of the day, I'm traveling, by car and going on a road trip for the first time in a long time for me. That's of that kind of significance. So, and that was our choice. We didn't want to fly anywhere and get on an airplane for a living. I don't always want to go on vacation to fly somewhere. So.
Yeah, when I take that trip to Atlantic City that I've already come back for, as you all are listening to this, I'm driving down there. There's no reason to get on an airplane all the time. We spend enough time on the airplanes. I actually find it very pleasurable to take a driving type of vacation experience or a work experience. It just changes things up a little bit. It's kind of fun. And I love putting down the windows and listening to some Sirius XM radio.
Fair enough, Glenn. So the other things that are happening in the industry is we're still very much in a time of a lot of merger and acquisition activity, as most of you will be hearing coming soon. There's a battle over LaSalle Hotel properties between Blackstone and Pebblebrook, which is continues to get amplified. And a lot of interesting scenarios in that case. We obviously have a situation where stock prices are at pretty all-time highs, and you have the cash offer versus the differences of not a largely stock offer, but certainly a lot of stock in the offer from Pebblebrook. And the board thinks one thing and the shareholders think another thing, and it's,
right.
Wow, that's a battle. We haven't seen one like that for a number of years. It brings me back to when the Steve Bolenbach and Barry Sternlicht days, right, when they were battling over Sheraton hotels back in the day.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And speaking of consolidation, stick around, everybody, because after the commercial break, we got a great interview with Brian Wogernese, and he is the CEO of Cobblestone Hotels. And just this week, they closed on a big deal to scoop up the Vimana Franchise Systems. That's Centerstone Hotels, Key West Inns Hotels and Resorts, and Independent Options by Vimana. So another big move in the hospitality industry. You're going to love that interview with Mr. Wogernese. He's really a smart professional. Love to see where that company's going. What do you think of that particular deal? And then beyond that, how much more consolidation can there be?
Well, I think in the time where we're at, we're actually going to keep talking about it. I don't expect it will go away at all. Mostly because you have things like the government taking over Anbang and taking over HNA and forcing them to quote do some transactions on some out of country investments would really be the way to say that.
Right. Both
being based in China, and then you have Hyatt, who has, I'm not sure, quite bid on everything, but a lot of different things they've been bidding on to try and find a way to grow the company through acquisition, but they haven't bought anything yet. And Accor continues to buy companies, but really not much here in America. They have bought some stuff in Latin America, and they just continue to play on both the kind of the food service side, but also hotel brands. You had IHG with their purchase of half of Regent Hotels, and they're looking to add another brand to their luxury stable. So there is a lot of activity out there, Glenn, and as the stock prices continue to stay high, you will keep seeing more.
Great for executive compensation. Great for the stock market and shareholders. What about hotel owners? I have an interview coming up in a few weeks, and we're going to talk all about Wyndham and how it's been brought in, how they brought La Quinta into the family. So we actually talk a little bit about the difficulties with the franchise community and what a challenge that is. And that interview is going to be so great. That's with Tom Barber of Wyndham. I already have it in the can. You guys are going to love hearing that one as soon as I get that up. I recorded it last month. I'm just waiting for the right time to put it up. But fascinating, because it's never like, oh, yeah, that's great, we've just been bought by somebody else. There's always some sort of discomfort with change.
Oh, certainly. I mean, it's all over the place, Glenn. I mean, whether you have a company that's announcing new brands constantly coming in to compete with their existing stable, whether it's companies buying brands and bringing them in, again, to compete with their existing stable, is a company continuing to reshuffle their brands and continuing to create new ones. It's happening everywhere, and for the owners, it certainly, boils down to, what have you done for me lately? I'm not certain that any of them would say that it's any cheaper to be a brand today than it was last year or the year before or 10 years ago. It's more expensive and costs are going up, and inflation is starting to become a discussion point. All over the place. I
mean, inflation this year is the highest rate it's been since 2012. So that's a pretty big deal, and we're going to start to see more expensive prices on everything as we're recording this. We're starting to finally see upward mobility in prices in direct response to steel tariffs that were put in. And I'm curious as to what the overall effect and the long term of the economy is going to be when, you had mentioned gas prices aren't up much this summer, but they've been up 60 cents in the last year and a half per gallon. That inflation is rising. I'm wondering how much more the stock market can move forward. And I don't want to depress everybody, but at the same time, I see there are a lot of little chinks in the economy that are all starting to happen punching little holes here, and there, weakening, I think, the structure of the economy. And one day I'm afraid that everything is going to take by surprise, and we're going to see things start to drop out.
Well, it becomes, I think, a closer to reality scenario all the time. And I think people's uncertainty about the economy probably is okay through the elections, but I think really all bets are off when we have the midterms this year. I have no looking glass to say that can go past that to say exactly what will happen. But I can tell you it will be of great interest to all Americans on those days where we go cast some votes.
Yes, that is true. You can't dispute that. All right. So what are some of the things that our listeners, Bruce, need to hear about today about what to expect next in the hospitality industry and how to best negotiate the fall hospitality conference season?
Well, it's clear to me that we have some flat numbers on the pipeline. We have not grown the pipeline markedly quarter over quarter. Year over year, it's about up about 7% on projects and about 6% on rooms, and that total number comes out today to be 5,312 projects in the active pipeline in the U.S. that are approved but not yet open, and 634,501 rooms. Slightly a minor dip from last quarter, but again, 7% up projects year over year, 6% up rooms. About 40% of those active pipeline rooms are actually in the top 25 markets, and about 60% of those active pipeline rooms are in the top 50 markets. So what that says is, and when I say top markets, that's indicated by the number of rooms they have open and operating today. It is not a symbol of the top rate markets. It is a symbol of the ones with the most hotel rooms in the current supply. So what that signals is that we have a pretty diverse pipeline out there. We have one that is certainly dominated by roadside type properties of upscale, upper mid-scale, and upscale type hotels. That is where many of the 76 new brands since 2012
Ooh,
are.
wow.
A lot of them. So certainly we have more, I don't know if we can I use this word, Glenn? We have a suburban sprawl of the new supply.
Ooh, I like that phrase. Nice one. Suburban sprawl of new supply.
It's really evidence when I start to look at some of the maps in my database where you can massage the kind of the supply, if you will, and looking how many more exits are getting new hotels. It's compelling, and then that might be I might just have created a catchphrase, Glenn.
I think you did. Someone here's coined a new term. That's very exciting. Drop us a line to let us know what you think of Bruce's new term. Should he continue it? Should he trademark it? We want to know.
The suburban sprawl of new hotel supply. Well, and that goes to one of my other points, Glenn.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned on this podcast a couple of times, we're about to have a chain scale that's going to have 1 million guest rooms as other than the unbranded chain scale. And, of course, that's going to be upper mid-scale. And I said that maybe by the middle of this year we would get there. And we are at 990,000 existing rooms in current supply for upper mid-scale, with 28,000 rooms scheduled to open through the rest of the year. So it is coming, and it will happen soon enough. And that kind of leads me down that suburban sprawl of new hotel supply. But also, that chain scale is only about 15 years old, Glenn. And obviously when it was created about 15 years ago after 9/11 and the downturn of the hotel industry, it wasn't created with 0 rooms, obviously, but it really has accelerated towards 1 million guest rooms. And it will be something to point out, I would gather.
That's pretty incredible numbers. Wow, it's a lot of guest rooms. how much longer can we continue to fill these up at such a great occupancy rate?
Well, I think, one of the things that has held up the hotel business has been the demand for room nights, which has continued to be well above long-term averages. It has continued to be in a place where we can't build them fast enough in some cases, and I think some of that's got to do with that suburban sprawl of the new hotel supply. As we just keep going further and further and further out with the exits away from the urban centers, and people are, okay with driving a little bit further to stay at a less no-frills hotel, if you will, and
Right.
and I think we're seeing that in a lot of cases. But, there are plenty of urban centers that are getting hotel rooms. There are plenty of urban centers that are seeing a lot of new construction, but certainly, as we seek quality investments in the business, we're seeing more suburban hotels being built these days than ever. So, what else is a trend today? It's clear also that many of these upscale and upper mid-scale brands, as they turn 20, as they turn 30, they're turning over some of their long-term existing locations, turning some of those over and building new hotels with their new brands and their new prototype in the same town where they've, long been at one location and now are at a new location, and we're certainly seeing plenty of that. And as an owner, you need to be aware about how that affects your asset. And we're also seeing a lot of owners saying, okay, I have a 20-year-old hotel that's been one brand for a very long time, and now it's going to live a new life. What am I going to do with it, and how do I leverage that, and how do I not see so much depreciation in the value of my asset by changing brands? So there's a lot of those stories out there. I think you and I have talked about that, Glenn. We're going to find a way to get more people to talk about that. It's an interesting angle on business today.
Yeah, I agree. Perfect assessment. I'm very, very impressed. So anything else that we need to know at this point about where we are in terms of development, the cycle, all that type of stuff that you're thinking about constantly every day at Lodging Econometrics?
So we have put out our new 2020 forecast. So 2018 is likely to come in with about 125,000 new hotel rooms, which will be just about 2.4% increase in supply. Next year is supposed to be about 131,000 new guest rooms in 2019, which would be just about 2.5. And then in 2020, we're now predicting 141,000 new hotel rooms will open in 2020, which would be about 2.6. And if I was taking the pipeline today and I had emptied all of that out as open, we'd still have 286,000 rooms in the new construction pipeline. So the sense is not quite an emptying yet. We're still kind of peaking, but we're also seeing, new brands like True and Avid announcing projects at a much faster rate than the rest of the market. So I'm not seeing a dip in supply anytime soon, but 2.5 and 2.6 are very digestible in the current demand environment.
Beautiful. Great way to sum it up. So one question then I have for you is, with so much development, what does that mean for hotels that already exist? Is this going to help them? Is it going to hurt them? Is it neutralized because of increasing demand?
I think existing hotels, there's a life cycle to a hotel building. That life cycle can be drawn out in years over time. But I think that there's been such advancements in terms of buildings that they are building for new hotels over the past 10 to 12 to 15 years. I think, we used to say the life cycle of a good hotel is 40 years. That may be changing. And that piece of land over a 40-year period of time may, in fact, be better used as something else in some cases. You do have to keep in mind about how demand and the room night demand fluctuates around the market, being where is the other commercial demand going, where are the new hospitals going, where are the new office parks going, where are the new airports in some places going, where is the other commercial demand. And as you see that grow, sometimes hotel locations go from an A-plus location to a B-plus location, and what does that mean for value? So when I came into the business over 20 years ago, Glenn, it was kind of 40 years was kind of the life cycle for most buildings, and as I say, that may be changing a little bit, but I think, as we continue to evolve as an industry, looking at buildings and evaluating, does this need to be a 120-room unbranded hotel, or should it be 60 rooms of two brands? And I think that's some of the evolution that we're starting to see now.
Excellent. And Bruce and I will continue to talk about the evolution and state of the hospitality industry throughout the year. Bruce, I love having you on, every month or so to keep us up to date with all of your great information that you have. If people want to get in touch with you, how can they find you at Lodging Econometrics?
Well, you can find Lodging Econometrics on LinkedIn. Follow our company page if you'd like to keep up on any of the latest statistics that we put out. We will be doing more than a few feature interviews over the next couple of weeks to kind of get the 2Q forecast out there. You can also find us at Lodging Econometric, drop the S, on Twitter, as well as you can personally find me on BFINH, INNH on Twitter. And, of course, you can contact me at lodgingeconometrics.com at any time. We'd be happy to talk to you and help you understand how your strategic plan can be enhanced under today's market conditions.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank Bruce Ford for being here, and I want to thank all of you guys for listening. And we're going to be right back after this commercial message. Just remember, this has all been wonderful, but now I'm on my way. See you on the other side of the commercial break from Red Roof with a great interview with Brian Wogernese, all about their strategy, all about Cobblestone, all about why this company is doing so well. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the other side of the commercial break.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Glenn here. Now listen, for me, one of the highlights of this past year's AHOA conference was learning all about the exciting stuff going on with Red Roof. For example, after comprehensive research into what travelers truly desire, Red Roof has created the Red Collection, a new group of mid-scale, unique hotels that are hyper-local and inspired by that city's vibe and culture. They all offer modern, accessible, and affordable accommodations, all within the proximity to the activities and sites travelers want to visit most. Like the St. Clair in Chicago, which is within walking distance of stores, restaurants, and museums all along the incredible, magnificent mile. Each property offers modern, accessible, affordable accommodations and the amenities guests ask for in their consumer research. Also included a loyalty program that just happens to be the richest in class and least expensive for franchisees, just 4%. And every property in the Red Collection has its own distinctive name, customized property enhancement plan, and brand standards based on consumers' wants rather than design mandates. And to top it off, the Red Collection gives franchisees opportunity to affordably invest in a sound brand with a solid track record. That's Red Roof's stellar management team. Finally, you'll be working with a company with franchise satisfaction rate of 94%. Wow! All those franchisees are going to tell you this, right? It's about genuine relationships, real results. That's just not some slogan. It's just how Red Roof operates. Learn more about the Red Collection. Just contact Phil Hugh. He's Red Roof's Chief Development Officer. Mail him at philhugh@redroof.com. That's Phil, P-H-I-L, Hugh, H-U-G-H. Phil Hugh at redroof.com, or just give him a call at 713-576-7417. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
Back to the show. It's No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. So I'm excited to have one of my favorite hoteliers on. I know, you guys. I say that every week, but I love this business. I love the folks within this business, and I love following the incredible strides they're making. So I found myself the CEO of Cobblestone Hotels, Brian Wogernese, who hasn't been on the show in a while, but we have some exciting news, and we thought it would be awesome to do a little catch-up here. Brian, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Pretty good. Always exciting to talk to you. It's now the lazy days of summer, those dog days of summer that we're getting into. And speaking about dog days of summer, Brian, I learned an interesting fact. it has nothing to do with it actually being hot and stuff out there. It actually has to do with the astronomy and dog constellation being in the stars. So that's my exciting news of the month.
Well, there's a little bit of trivia for us.
Right? Very exciting. So as we're recording this, this is going to come out after this closes, just so you know, so we can put perspective in it and all. But congratulations. You folks just made a huge purchase. You bought Centerstone. I didn't see that coming. I should have seen something like this coming. We're in the era of consolidation. You're taking part in it. Wow. Awesome. Congratulations. Tell me all about it.
Sure, thanks. It's been a lot of fun. So as I think we've discussed before, that this wasn't going to be a huge monumental thing in the hotel industry, but it's big for us.
Mm-hmm.
Huge purchase, in perspective to I guess the La Quinta deal and the American deal and the Wood Springs deal. It's pretty small, but again,
stop! You're just really undercutting yourself. This is a big deal. If you look proportionally at what's going on with the size of these companies, you made a great deal. I want to put it out there for everybody. This is pretty awesome. This is pretty cool. It makes a whole lot of sense for you. And again, I should have had my prediction hat on, and I didn't see it coming.
Well, and we didn't really see it coming either. We were contacted by Vimana. For Centerstone and Key West, and I basically went down the hall to my partner, Jeremy, who heads up our development team, and said, hey, what do you think? And we both looked at each other and went, why not? And Key West really was a big part of it for us because it fills that economy space that we didn't have. So we had Cobblestone, obviously, Borders on the conversion side, and then Key West can be our economy brand. So we are on the road right now. There's about 5 of us going out and visiting all the franchisees, talking to them. And then we will be closing at the end of this month. So July 31st, it's ours. August 1st, we hit the ground running as Key West and Centerstone too. So
that's terrific. So as people are listening to this, the deal is already closed because this is going to run after August 1st. But that's pretty awesome. They came to you with this opportunity. I feel like Brian, you're the ultimate accidental hotelier. I always say, because you started with the construction company, and this story goes back 10 years ago to when you first started, when all of a sudden you were almost kind of egged on by other people to wind up creating a whole franchise business, and now it's happening to you again. You weren't planning on it, and something big happened to you. What kind of positive energy are you putting out in the universe that all these good things seem to come in your direction?
Well, I would say I'm not an accidental hotelier. I am a hotelier. My family was more on the construction side.
That's kind of what I meant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. The franchising piece was accidental. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And if I wanted to go back right now and back in time, I'm thrilled with everything that happens. Would I start this again today? Absolutely not. But it's been a fun ride, and we're more owner operator developers than we are franchisors,
right?
Which I think really resonates with a lot of our franchisees because we're in the trenches with them. We have I think we're about 15 wholly owned stores that we have, mm-hmm. and then we're invested in about another 30 of them. So whatever we do as a franchise to the franchisee, we're doing to ourselves also. So we're very careful on making any decisions that's going to cost money unless there's some type of return for them. Doesn't always work that way, but that's our focus. There's, not to pick on the big guys, but we're not just sitting in an office dictating you're going to do this. And we're also flat fees, so we're not as worried about the top line franchise revenue as you see in other models. So
right. Also, flat fee, one of my favorite old school Fish songs for the few people out there who know what the heck I'm talking about. But Vimana, Vimana has several brands. They have the Centerstone brand, the Key West brand, and they have something called Independent Options by Vimana, which, quite frankly, I didn't even realize that they had. So how does this change the complexity of your organization, and how are you thinking about incorporating them into the family? And, of course, what are your plans once everything gets going?
Well, I wish I had the answers for that. So right now what we're doing is we're out visiting people. So I'm actually down in Florida. So I took my favorite state. Mm-hmm. So I was able to pick and choose which ones. But we're out there. We're going to get back together next week in the office with all of our team that have visited everybody, put everything together, see what what everybody likes, what they dislike, and then kind of see what the strategy is going forward. So right now, my political answer is that is yet to be determined.
Yep.
But for the most part, they're happy franchisees. So we're getting a lot of good feedback. So it's definitely been worth the trip and getting out and seeing everybody. And we like to touch and feel everything and see people and talk to them one-on-one. And this wasn't just about sending out an email and a press release, say, hey, here we are, and call us if you need something. That doesn't work for me. I can't put my arms around that. And there's only 30 locations, so it was easy enough for us to go everywhere. So
that's great. And what about in terms of incorporating them into everything that you do? Because adding 30 properties at once is kind of a big jump for a company that's of your size and scale.
It is, but we're not managing them, so it's not as much of a problem. So, I think over the years we have several pieces to us. We're a general contractor. We have our own management arm. So we manage about 80 hotels, and then we're the franchisor. So when I got with the team, I said, well, how much work is this going to be? And I'm making it sound easier than it is, obviously. But they said, as long as we're just the franchise piece, we can handle that. We have the people. If it was 30 managed hotels, we could still handle it, but that would definitely be a little more challenging.
Yeah, all right. That makes a whole lot of sense to me. So, how do you feel about the state of the mothership brand? What's going on with Cobblestone these days? Maybe for I have a lot of new listeners to the No Vacancy podcast, Brian. So maybe this is a good idea to talk a little bit about how your concept is a little different than some of the hotels that we see out there that are from the big brand companies. Because you've always focused on some of those smaller markets that I'm aware of that a lot of the big companies were unable to find success. Yet you seem to thrive within.
Well, and that's still always going to be our focus, and Cobblestone's our baby.
Yep.
So that is, as you said, that is the mothership. So there are a total of 88 open currently and 8 under construction. So our goal was when we hit our 10-year, which is this year, was to be 100 hotels. So I have this promise that I needed to deliver to our franchisees of, hey, we're going to get you 100 hotels. Now, the acquisition of Vimana will get me way over that. And I didn't tell them how I was going to do it, and I didn't know at the time. But we're there. And really all I need right now is 4 more deals to get in the ground by this year, and I think we've delivered. And we're going to make that. So, Vimana aside, Key West Centerstone, we would still, I think we're still going to hit that 100 mark. And new development, so the 8 under construction are all Cobblestones. But we're not just focusing on the small markets anymore. That's our core, and that always will be. But we've come up with a new concept. It's called our Main Street prototype. I think we have about 7 or 8 of them right now, and there's a couple under construction. We're building them in downtown, so they're almost like a little downtown boutique hotel. So one of the coolest spots is Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, and I'm a little biased, but I grew up there, and so did my wife. We built it downtown. We also put in a little steakhouse called Wasota Chop House. So there's 3 of those right now, and there's 2 more under construction. But what those are designed for, too, is we went into these markets with an Express and a Hampton. And we want to see how we perform. And right now we're really happy with them. But they're still a little too new for us to go out to the streets and say, hey, here's how we compete with the bigger brands. So we're doing a little bit of both, but we wanted to be the ones that went and experimented in these markets against the bigger guys.
Well, that's all pretty logical. So when you talk about these Main Street prototypes, you're not talking about downtowns like New York downtown. You're thinking more of secondary and tertiary type cities. I just want to be sure we're on the same page with what I'm talking about.
Absolutely, because what we consider a big market, others may even be a stretch as a tertiary market. So we're in the Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls market, which is maybe 125,000 people. We're Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which is I think the trade area is maybe in the 60s. And then Janesville, which is south of Madison, Wisconsin. So right now they're with the restaurants, they're all going in Wisconsin markets because they're close to us. We can touch them and feel them, tweak them. And once we get some good data out of those, then I think we can go to the markets. The ADRs are wonderful on these things right now, so we've just been really happy.
Are you operating the Wasota Chop Houses on your own?
We are. So it's not a franchise as of yet. We own the name, so we own all the hotels that have the restaurant pieces in them right now. But those have been a lot of fun. I've never really wanted to be in the food and beverage business, but it's a component of it. So it gives you that select service feel, boutique-ish feel, without just having to put a hotel there and worry about, especially when you're in some of these smaller downtowns, where they're going to eat, and it just gives another dining option for them.
Yeah, I think that's smart, and I think it's on point. But how do you get involved? And I want to talk more about the brand itself. But now I'm caught up with this F&B thing. You have a lot of experience in hotel operations, hotel construction, hotel franchising at this point. How do you figure out how to open up a restaurant that finds success without you taking a bath, financially on something like this when you step outside your hospitality comfort zone?
Well, kind of like the purchase of Vimana, we didn't put a whole lot of thought into it. We just you come up with an idea, we run with it, and I'm more of a foodie, so it was kind of a passion to put it together. And the first one that went in did really well. We had some great people. They helped us fine tune the concept. The menu's fairly close to what it was originally, but we tweaked some things. This isn't New York City, so it's the Midwest, and we have to be sensitive to that.
Yeah. All right. So I feel like I've seen and experienced the Chop House already because you seem to be spending a lot of time there, at least posting about it on Facebook and stuff. So it looks terrific, and I hope to get to a city real soon so I can give it a try. But why do you think when it comes to Cobblestone and Borders, that what is it about the formula of what you do that is able to be successful in these smaller markets where the larger hotel companies that have become so dominant just can't seem to function within successfully to the degree that you are?
Well, I think that the biggest piece is if you want to go with any of the other brands, you're looking at 50, 60, 70, 80, in some cases, rooms, especially the big guys. That just doesn't work in a town of 5,000 people.
Right.
So we're coming in right now. Our average size is right around 42, I think, as far as the new construction pieces on average. So we're still, our original prototype was only 31 rooms.
Right.
And that did work 10 years ago when construction prices were obviously a lot better. We started this thing in 2008, which I still kind of shake my head, who starts a hotel brand in 2008, but, there we were. But the construction was great, so we could get them built economically. Now we just can't get it down to that size, so we're really kind of pushing 40, 45 rooms as a number, but that's still smaller than anybody else on the new build side. And these things don't just happen on their own. So it's the components that you need to go into small town USA and put a hotel together. You need a management company. Well, you need a developer. You need a management company. You need a construction company. You need a franchise, and we're all that in one. So you can't just walk into small town USA and sell a franchise and think it's just going to happen.
Right.
Because a lot of the people that want these hotels know nothing about the business. They've made money off of other things, farming, manufacturing, you name it. But they want a hotel, and they want just somebody to take care of it, start to finish, and that's us. And there's almost nobody that does what we do. And I don't want to say there's nobody. I'm not going to announce the other people I know, because that's not going to help me. But anyway, that's the key. So that's it. Again, if you step back a little bit, again, we're a developer more than we are a franchisor, and that was our thing. So.
Yeah, and you're developing and you're continuing to go. And a lot of times, I love, because I've been to a couple of your annual conferences. I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of your owners, and it's interesting to see how all of these people see almost creating a hotel within their town as more than just a business. It's almost symbolic of, hey, we've arrived as a community in some sense.
It is, and you go to these communities, depending, no matter what the size. I always said every town needs a hotel. Does it need 2 rooms or does it need 200? That's where the problem is trying to determine these markets, because you're pioneering a little bit. But in a lot of cases with our investors, they're doing it for the community. It keeps people in their town. It keeps businesses growing and restaurants and gas stations and little shops and things like that, you name it. Do all of them need a hotel? Absolutely not. But that's up for them to determine, and obviously, feasibility studies and things like that. But that's it. You see these people standing there just loud and proud when that ribbon cutting is going on, and you're so excited for them because they in a lot of cases they've been talking about this for years, and we're the ones that can actually get the whole thing put together for them.
That's amazing. That's why I think it's such a cool story, because I love that small town feel and approach that you're able to take, and give everybody the opportunity to run a new and exciting business, which very often hasn't had a branded hotel within their community. It might have been a lot of older, smaller type of properties that have been there for 30, 40, 50 years even, is my hunch, because I haven't had a chance to visit a lot of these small towns, but it's kind of what I'm feeling. So this gives something the entire town could rally behind and be proud of and feel really excited about, which I think is pretty excellent as well. So where are you going to go from here? I mean, are you just going to continue along the same pace, or do you think someone else is just going to drop in one day and you're going to wind up buying some more companies? What happens?
Well, and Vimana wasn't on the radar, to be honest with you, but there are a couple other groups that we're working with and talking to. And I'm fairly comfortable that you'll see us pick up another group. They have about 20-ish hotels this year, and we're in the early stages, but I think we should be able to hopefully wrap that up by the end of the year. Other than that, acquisitions have not. That was never really on our radar, except for a few in the Midwest that we were looking at. Otherwise, it's just developing. But and I think this, we did pick up Patrick Mullenix from who was with Vantage for many years. We've finally determined that we've dabbled in the franchising space, and I know that sounds odd because we are a franchisor, but we've never really focused on a team just selling franchises. So we're doing our 15 or so a year. We would like to see another 15 or so a year go in that we're not the developer for, we're not putting the whole deal together, that we're just, selling the franchise and growing the brand. So we finally committed to, we're either going to do this and we're going to do it right, because we have dabbled a little bit over the years and we haven't been good at it. So I finally wanted to get somebody that's what they've done, and that's been their focus. And every time we bring in a person to sell franchises, we eventually turn them into a hotel developer. And on the development side, if you do one or two deals a year, we're thrilled with that.
Right.
So and we need to, we have a team of about 5 with that, and we'll keep that going. But I want to see where this goes, and we're excited about it. I know Patrick is excited. He's out on the road. He's part of the tours this week in Alabama with Gabby McMillan, which I think she's selling franchises for us too. So they're both out pounding the pavement. For the most part, they have all the Key West in Alabama and that area this week that they're heading.
Well, that's terrific. Patrick happens to be a terrific guy. I know him personally. I've known him for a lot of years through my relationship with the folks at the former Vantage Hospitality, which then was absorbed by Red Lion. So he's great. I want to switch a little bit more. How do you do all of this? Because you started out in one particular way. Now you've expanded in so many places. You're running all of these different avenues of the company. How do you create a corporate culture that is successful, continues to grow with you, and allows you to manage but not have to micromanage? And by the way, I think Patrick Mullenix is a perfect fit for your corporate culture. You really seem aligned on that.
Good. Well, thank you. Well, I'd like to say it's easy, and you just, I as a kid, I always thought if you had a company, you just had people just did their stuff, and I could sit back with my feet up on the desk, but that's not how it works. So in 2008, when we started, we only had 5 or 6 employees. Mm-hmm. We're now over 50. So I'm not going to say it wasn't without a lot of growing pains, but we're in the best spot that we ever have been. I have some great people. Josie. Yep. She's our new brand president as of beginning of this year. Mm-hmm. She's young. I just have a young team, and they work harder than I do.
Yeah.
But they live it, they breathe it on the construction side, on the management side, and on the franchise side. I just have a great team that when there's trouble, and you're in the hotel business, there's always trouble. I was just on the phone before I talked to you of, what exciting things are happening today, and when you think you've heard it all, just wait another day or two.
Too funny. Well, I will say it's great that Josie has managed to work her way up through the ranks of the corporation. I feel like she's been with you since the start. I didn't know her way back then, but it's great to see how she's grown and taken on more responsibilities, and how that's a model for people being able to be promoted within a hospitality organization. And you're creating pathways for people's careers as opposed to just giving them a job, which is very exciting too. So how do you work to develop that staff component to make sure that they become loyal, long-term employees that can continue to grow within the company and add more value to what you're trying to accomplish over the years?
Well, I wish I had the secret sauce, but it's a matter of making sure they're taken care of. Now, they work a lot. We are concerned with their quality of life, especially with where we're at in the hotel locations on the management and the franchise side. Mm-hmm. They're in some remote areas, so these people travel a lot, and I always want them to get home and when they can, but some days you just need to be on the road. So I don't know. That would probably be a better question for them. I have about 3 key people over there that are presidents of each of the companies that we own. I would love to have you get together with them, and then maybe you could tell me what I've done. But a lot of it's luck, but it's people. We're in the people business, and that needs to start at the corporate level too. So, and I also I used to micromanage when we were smaller, and I could do that. I knew everything that was going on. It is impossible once you get to this size. Now I sound like we're huge, but it's hard to know every component, but the people I have are able to kind of filter that for me of the stuff that I need to know and the stuff that they can just take care of. And how it works, I don't know. There's not a manual you can write for it.
Right. It seems like that's kind of the model for everything that you've done. There's not a manual. Let's just invent it as we go along and find out, and let's just try to be successful in any way that we can. I feel like tenacity has a lot to do with that. How do you keep motivated and keep moving forward even in the face of challenges?
It's just fun. I don't see retirement. I'm horrible at golfing. I just don't see myself ever sitting down and just, having, mowing the lawn for the day being your biggest challenge. It can't happen. So no matter, I might slow down as I get older, but we're going to keep going. And again, we're setting this up so that I have, this younger generation is set to run for many years.
Yeah, and let's be fair, you're not so old to begin with, because if you are, then I'm totally screwed, because I feel like we're in the same age range here. So what do you do to relax and turn it off? Because I have a lot of trouble with that. I'm trying to build a company. I'm building a business. And I have a hard time making that separation between work and play. But I find that folks from the Midwest and Wisconsin seem to be able to create that delineation a lot more effectively than a guy like me from New York who doesn't know how to slow down.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a problem. So I don't. There isn't. My wife likes to travel. I travel all the time, so we have a little conflict there. When I get home, I actually want to relax a little bit.
Right.
But my relaxing is I have an old car problem, and so my relaxing on the weekend is washing cars and driving them around, and then you're still Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's still it's catching up from all the stuff you did during the week, or that you didn't do, but instead you're probably sitting on your couch doing it instead of sitting at your desk in the office. And I'm only in the office maybe 2 days a week as it is. So.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying, because I work every single Saturday, sometimes on Sundays as well. But I find a lot of times I'm just trying to do what you said, just catch up, trying to get ahead of the beast, so I could at least have that sense that I'm in control again, as opposed to that snowball rolling downhill that's gonna take me away with it in an uncontrollable fashion. So Brian, what do you do to educate yourself and make sure that you're all set in order to make those great decisions? I'm thinking about, are there any books that you're reading out there that help you with management skills, or is it all just kind of really trusting in your gut?
Well, it's a lot of gut, but yeah, it's our research, obviously just watching what the industry is doing on an ongoing basis. Now, the big guys like Starwood and Hilton, Marriott, we're watching them. There's not a lot that they do that really affects what's happening with us.
Right.
But Wyndham, Choice, and Red Lion, completely different story. We're all kind of, playing in that same pool. So I have to watch. And, when you see these things happen, American sale was a big deal for us.
Mm-hmm.
And not that it affected us a lot, but that they were based in the Midwest. As a matter of fact, we were big American franchisees back in the day when we started out in the business. So that changing hands did affect a little bit, but not in a negative way. It was probably more in a positive way for us. But we have to watch those things, and that's really our education. On the construction side, that's a completely different animal, and we don't have enough time to get into that one. But
no,
just really kind of see what everybody's doing. There's a lot of stuff moving around nowadays.
Yeah, and just a little show note for everyone. If you're not familiar, American was bought by Wyndham. So, what do you make of this? Looking back now on 10 years, because you're in a totally different place than I'm sure you ever expected in 2008. What do you make of this journey that you're on so far, and what do you hope to achieve in the next 10 years?
Well, that's funny you ask me. People say, what was your goal when you started in 2008? And I think my goal was the same as everybody else. It was to stay alive during that time.
Yep.
As long as you were still running and operating, and people ask me how's business, I said, well, I'm still in the game. So that's a lot better than some people you saw out there. So, and I told somebody yesterday, I said, now we actually do have goals. So, our goal now going forward is, especially with, trying to build this franchise team, we want to see 30 to 40 hotels a year going forward. And that's never been our goal. We were happy with, our biggest year, I think we added about 20 hotels. A lot of them were conversions that year, but otherwise we're seeing that, 12 to 15 a year, and that's been the pace, and that's what we can handle. And we could actually handle a little more on the construction side if we wanted to build more. But it's either we're either in or not. And so, yeah, I'd like another 10 years. I'd like to see us up to at least 300 hotels. Is that a little aggressive? Maybe, but there's some thought put into how we're trying to push this forward.
Excellent. I love it. Any final thoughts before we wind up?
No, I think that's about it. I mean, obviously, you could ask me questions. I could sit here all day long, but we all have other stuff to do. So, and I guess one thing I want to say, Glenn, you have been a bigger cheerleader for me than I have been over the years. So I always appreciate that. I think the first time we met down in Nashville, at that point, we might have been 30 or so hotels.
Yep.
I was more enthused with your excitement than I was. I was nervous with some of the big guys up on stage, and now you see them and you shake hands and you're good friends. But that was a very intimidating day for me, and I thank you for that experience.
Oh, that's really sweet of you to say, and I was honored to have you aboard. I've always thought of you as really visionary and different than a lot of the folks that we see out there. Not that they're not great professionals also, but you're just taking a different road on your journey to success, and I love following it, and I hope to continue to follow it more for years to come. So before we wind up, Brian, I got to ask you one last question. Shameless plugs. Go ahead. Tell everybody what you want to have. No rules.
Well, I'm pretty simple. Just, cobblestonefranchising.com. Everything is on there about us. There's videos and there's one when Patrick came on, he was watching the development video and he said, wow, that's great. And we need to update it. It's a little old, but it really gives a little bit of story of who we are, and everything's on there. It shows all the hotels that are under construction, and I guess that's it for my shameless plug.
Beautiful. I love it. And I want to thank Brian for being here today. Brian Wogernese is such a great guy, and I want to thank you all for listening. And listen, I'll be back next week unless I decide to go out to Wisconsin and open my own Cobblestone Hotel. All right, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm too lazy to leave Long Island. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.